CQ, the old friends net, on a stormy night in Shelby. This is Steve, N4LQ, calling CQ, the old friends net, listening for any check-ins.
WB4NKL.
Hello, Cliff. I knew you'd make it. So you're a long way from the storm activity, but I got a text message from Jim, CTM, and he said he was securing his station, and I looked at the radar, and boy, it's a mess. So those folks out that way in Liberty, and so I guess that includes John, Tony, and Brian, and all that bunch out that way. So hopefully there'll be a few folks that are not having the problem. I've seen a lot worse static, but it's really bad over in that area. So running the let's see, the AS68 and trying to keep the power down as low as I can. Boy, hang on a second here. I'm going to have to start using an attenuator or something on this transmitter. Anyway, how you doing tonight? WB4NKL, N4LQ.
N4LQ, it's WB4NKL. Okay, Stevie, I'm hearing the static crisis. Like I say, I've probably heard worse, but they are pretty stout crashes. And I didn't get in the whole lot today. Got to walk in and took the garbage off, and that's about it. Worked out here in the shop some. Dug into Cousins Transoceanic, or started on Cousins Transoceanic. And one of the dial strings broke. It's got 3 on it. One of them was broke. I got that replaced, and in the process of trying to find a manual schematic on it. I'm not working on the shortwave bands, and I think the problem is the voltage is low on the oscillator, the string, the tubes. Where it's supposed to be 9 volts for the tubes, I've just got about 7, so I think the oscillator's quitting when you get much above the broadcast band. So it probably just needs to be recapped, maybe replace the selenium rectifier. So making a little progress on it. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
All right. Sounds like fun. Anybody else out there want to attempt to check in tonight, you're certainly welcome. This is N4LQ listening. Oceanic. Now, I have never owned one, Never had one. Never even taken one apart. Now, I did run across a Hallicrafters that was a little bit like that. It was a battery portable, kind of a leatherette-like case. I don't remember too much about it, and I had to do some work on it. It wasn't too collectible, I guess, as you would call it, but I think I sold it for a song and a dance, but that's about the only experience I've had with it. Had some experience with selenium rectifiers. I remember way back when I was a kid getting a hold of a selenium rectifier, and somehow it ended up getting shorted or something, and I'll never forget the smell. It stunk, and I believe weren't focus rectifiers on the color TVs made out of the same material, because they didn't smell too good either. But I guess they were made for high voltage. Real long, skinny things. But so I got my walk in, got my 2 miles in, enjoyed it, and when we got back from lunch, we went to Waffle House today. The XYL did not eat breakfast because she was having some blood tests run and didn't want to mess those up. So I got back, and this guy was parked in the driveway in a nice looking pickup with a sign on it. He was a roofer. It's one of these big outfits, kind of statewide. The name of it is Burish, B-U-R-I-S-H, Builders Roofing. So he said he had just inspected a roof up the street, and he wanted to inspect mine to see if we had any hail damage. And he said we had a hailstorm last July 3rd in 2023. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Well, go ahead and check it. He went up, found hail damage, took pictures of it. I called the insurance company. He knew everybody at Farm Bureau here, and they got on the phone, and so the deal is they're sending their inspector over, and he's going to meet him and show him the damage and see if we can get a new roof. It's still going to cost me I got a $2,000 deductible, so it'll cost that, but I figure it's probably a good deal, so I don't know. I'm wary of people that drop in like that, but I know Brian, KN4R, and a couple other guys have gotten new roofs exactly the same way, and they were happy with theirs. So we'll see what happens. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
It's WB4NKL. Good deal. Well, hope you can get a good our new roof out of it. I had to put one on, I guess it's been about 5 years ago. It was just age related. And I had the architectural type shingles to put back on. This time it's supposed to be 35, 40-year roof. It'd probably outlast me if something don't happen. So far, so good. That's, I guess, the only thing you need to look at is make sure they're putting, if they're replacing it, that they're putting a good roof back on it, good shingles and heavy duty. Something. The architectural type's got a lot higher wind resistance than the regular shingle. So that's the biggest thing here I was worried about. So we get some high wind here on this little hilltop, and I want something that's going to stay on. We lived in a house not too far from here before we built this. I don't know, it's something about the way the wind hit that place and the angle of that roof. I couldn't keep shingles on it. I'd replace shingles, and the next storm come through, I'd have shingles messing, and I got aggravated with it. I guess back at the time, metal roofs wasn't that big of a thing, but if they'd been pushing those, I would have put a metal roof on it back at the time. So we moved away from it and sold it. I guess they're still having problems out of it. But, you know, I think I was trying to remember my roof. I forget how many squares it was, but it was about seemed like $9,000. So if you can get a new roof for $2,000, you probably got more roof than I've got. So that's a pretty good deal, Steve. N4LQ, it's WB4NKL.
Roger, Roger, N4LQ. Anybody else want to check in? Call now. Well, we got another victim. KZ4 Bravo has graced us with his presence thereof. Good morning. If that makes you feel better. It's kind of a dark morning here. What are you up to, John? Go ahead and take it. KZ4B, N4LQ. I guess you will give it to, go ahead and give it to Cliff, WB4NKL. Go ahead.
Okay, N4LQ in the group, KZ4B. Fine business, Steve. Yeah, things are starting slow on Jesse. They're talking about the bridge that collapsed, so I thought I'd touch base right quick, see how you guys were doing. I heard you say that you got your walk in. I got mine in today, even though it's kind of cold and clammy, but not raining. It was dumped earlier this morning, but later it got quite dry. It just didn't heat up. But anyway, top of the day to you, Cliff, and Steve, and I don't have a whole lot to add here. I am talking to you. I got my Ameritron TPC 150 ALC injector straightened out where it has a little more vernier and the regulator should be working. It's a touchy rascal, but the Elenco needs that to drive a linear so you can control the output. And you know, some linears have a variable ALC control on the face of them. And I think if I had that, I've got a couple set up like that, but I'm not using it at this time with the Elenco. That might allow me to get rid of that black box and just use the linear. So, over to you, Cliff, WB4NKL, KZ4B, over.
KZ4B, WB4NKL. Okay, John. Good signal in here tonight. I was wondering how much static you're picking up. I guess you're closer to the storms over there tonight. Steve says they're all east of him. So I'm hearing the static here, but probably not as bad as fellows on out towards the middle of North Carolina. Steve, he's talking about the transoceanic. I guess that was the first, and then all those companies, there was a bunch of them copied the transoceanic. The Helicrafters made one, and they were all real similar. RCA made one, and Stromberg Carlson, and there's probably some more can't think of right now, but they were almost copies of the transoceanic, except the Helicrafters and the RCA used a turret type tuner, which neatened things up a whole lot. I've got the Helicrafters version, and one of the transoceanics is all I've got. I've had several of them over the years, but I've passed them all along except the two, and they're real nice. They're both in brown leather instead of that other Stag or whatever that is. Helicrafters and the Zeniths in the brown leather. So go ahead, Steve. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
Okay, I thought I heard another signal in there. Who was that?
W4JPL.
Well, that's who that was. W4JPL, N4LQ. I'm glad you made it. I was afraid that the storms had chased you out. Jim was disconnecting everything and sent me a text message. But according to the map, you're pretty close to it. But anyway, hope you're enjoying the static tonight. So go ahead and take it. And I guess you will come after John KZ4B. Go ahead, W4JPL, N4LQ.
N4LQ and group, W4JPL. Fine business. Running the Yaesu again tonight. We had a storm blow in through half hour, 45 minutes ago, and now it's going away. A little bit of static, but not all that much. Not that much, and I'm not complaining about it at all. Spent a fortune today in Lowe's buying a refrigerator, a washer, and a dryer. Other than that, didn't do much. So, over to you, Steve, W4JPL.
All right. Well, at least you'll get something clean, I guess. Anybody else want to check in? Call now. Pretty good little forum here, I guess. And yeah, John, okay on that injector gadget. I'm not sure why the Alinco needs that. Has it got too much output? You can't reduce it, or is that the problem, or what? Maybe you can explain that. I got a rig at not my Icon, but another brand, that on AM, when you go to transmit, even though you got your power set down to 25 watts or below, it puts out full roaring power, 100 watts for about, a tenth of a second. I mean, it is a huge spike, and it will invariably trip the protection on any solid-state amplifier. And even on the big AL82, you can see the plate current swing way up there for just a split second. There's no way to use that thing with an amplifier. Now, if I had this gadget and injected some negative voltage in there to keep the ALC down, that might work. I don't know. I mean, I've heard of people doing that with just a battery and putting a little battery voltage on the ALC of the rig. Sometimes you can there's a port that you can feed that into or on the accessory socket. So maybe that's it. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Cliff. Let him comment on that. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4NKL. Okay, Steve. I'm not too familiar with the solid state rigs, but I can see where that would be a problem if you keyed down and it went to full power for even a microsecond. I don't know. Need some kind of delay there before it. I don't know how you could handle that. It's like I say, you might be able to change the ALC or build some kind of delay into the switchover relay. Give it time to settle down. But I guess John, I didn't quite follow what John was talking about either, so he can explain it a little bit further. Hello to the other John, JPL. Sounding good on the Yaesu. The static's pretty loud. Some of the crashes take your audio out, but you're getting enough of it to get it. So good deal. Go ahead, KZ4B, WB4NKL.
Okay, WB4NKL on the group KZ4B. Fine business there, Cliff. This is just a little black box that puts out a steady DC voltage that you inject into the ALC input of your transceiver. It's got a RCA jack in the back that normally is connected to the ALC output of linear if you're running linear. But lo and behold, Elenco had that, but they did not have a variable output control. There's a pot inside that you can turn, but that's not convenient. And, it's set up for a nominal 100 watt output, 50 watt output, or something like 10 watt output. And you can select that, but you can't vary it. And that's no good. When I'm operating sideband, I don't need to attenuate the output that much, but on AM, I have to cut it way back. I'm not sure why, but the Elenco's rated 40 watts carrier on AM, and it's rated a nominal 100 watt sideband, but in fact it's more like 130 or 40 watts at least. It's very conservatively rated, but for some reason I don't have to crank in as much ALC voltage to dial it back on sideband as I do on AM. And I run about 375 or 400 watts of carrier, and that way, I'm not pushing the amplifier too much or making Uncle Sam unhappy. But some, like my Ameritron AL80B, which is just sitting here looking at me, I'm not using it at the present time. It's got a single 3500Z. That has a continuously variable ALC output, and at the last Hamfest, I bought an AL800 that had failed on the guy, and he claimed he had one good tube and one soft tube, and I bought it for less than what the tube is worth. So, but the rest of the AL800 is, totally intact, and so, I figured I couldn't go wrong. And I can certainly use the tube because this Titan I'm talking to you on uses a pair of 3CX800s. And those tubes, like almost all, seems like all these external anode tubes have become unobtainium. And it's crazy. Fortunately, I have collected some spares through the years, and if they're not gassy, I'm okay. And if they are, I'm probably screwed. But you know how that goes. But anyway. So that's the deal there. And not to hog it too long, I'll pass it on over. W4JPL, what is your handle? Are you Steve or John? I forget, over.
Okay, John. This is John. W4JPL here. Liberty, North Carolina. Hold on a second, I want to check my tuning. Power output. Sorry about that, fellas. I thought something was screwing in St. Louis. My spray white. I'm just checking it out here. Okay. Go to IC. I can put a little bit more power out there. Alright, we all set up. Yeah, John, the name is John. I'm located in Liberty, North Carolina. It's not the end of the world, but here, down the road from Jim and Tony in the other direction. So fine business on the amplifier issues. I've really got nothing to add to that part of the conversation. However, I was just looking at my Johnson 500 sitting here all by itself, and the VFO's got 160 meters on it. But it's not doing me any good because the radio doesn't have 160 meters on it. The rest of the transmitters. So, sorry. Well, hello to you, Steve. N4LQ in the group, W4JPL.
Okay, W4JPL in the group. We got anybody else wanting to check in? Call in 4LQ now. Well, speaking of gassy tubes, we ate at Waffle House today, and I got me a big bowl of chili and onions and a Philly cheesesteak sandwich with onions on it. And boy, things are starting to happen around here, I'll tell you. You just be glad you're not here. Anyway, well, output power, I don't understand. Now, the Linko, does it not have a control to adjust the output power? And can you not adjust it for anything from 0 to whatever? I mean, like on the ICOM, it'll go from 0 to 25 watts on AM. And, of course, up to 100 on sideband, depending on where you have the, what do they call it? The RF power control, as it's called. Some people call it, some rigs have the drive control. Does it not have that? Or you're talking about steps, like 100 watts, 50 watts, and then the lowest was only, what, not low enough? So that's confusing and strange. Now, the spike issue is a big deal, and a lot of rigs have that issue, including the ICOMs. They have a spike on key down on CW on your first character, and you try to turn your power down to like 20 watts, and it goes down to 20 watts key down, but on the way down there's a spike, and you're really not adjusting the drive. What you're really doing internally is turning up the ALC, and it's relying on its own ALC to back the power down whenever the transmitter is activated, and generally the ALC is not fast enough in some rigs, and a lot of solid-state rigs are insulted by that surge of power and automatically trip their protection circuit, and they say overdrive. And that the Ameritron ALS series is well known for that, little 600s. It's a very common problem. So the cure that I have heard about is to use a battery and feed with a pot and feed the voltage into the ALC jack of the transceiver, and use that to back the power down and give it a constant voltage. So you'd set your power to 100 watts and then turn the pot until it's down to whatever drive level that you want, and that keeps it there and doesn't rely on the rig's ALC to do so. Apparently it's been that way for a long time on a lot of rigs, and the tube rigs, they don't usually care. It's not good for them. That's not really not good for them at all, but they just kind of ignore it and go on, and I'm sure it probably creates some more wear on the tubes. Anyway, I'll say enough about that, and real fine on the washer and dryer. So I guess you're going to leave your oven there in the house as part of the deal or something. Hey, I read about, or my wife was telling me, she does most of the reading around here about this big lawsuit with realtors that a bunch of homeowners got together and sued the MLS, multiple listing service, saying that apparently they don't like it because the buyer's agent is publishing the price, and it makes it their fee, and it's hard for a homeowner to sell the house because the MLS agents do not want to advertise a house that's not listed with an MLS realtor. Some kind of mess like that. It's going to change. It's going to change the way houses are being sold, I believe, eventually. Because right now, the MLS folks have got a monopoly on selling houses, and that's causing some problems. Anyway, over to you, Cliff, WB4NKL, N4LQ.
Q, WB4NKL. Can't really comment on the realty business. I was involved a little bit with one of my daughter's houses by helping her purchase it, but and then I sold one, but we didn't use a realtor on it. Sold my mother's house a while back, put a sign out in the yard, and the next day it was sold, so that worked out pretty good. I'm going to get out. I got Larry over here on 220. I'm going to holler at him a minute. And so I'm going to jump out early. I've got a ultrasound on my liver tomorrow, so at 9:30. So I guess I'll miss the old friends, but probably be in for a little while on the Over the Hill gang before I head out. So 73s for tonight, and go ahead, John. KZ4Bs, WB4NKL.
Okay, WB4NKL is Luke, KZ4B, Fine Business Cliff. And by the way, I didn't answer your question last go round. I'm hearing some major static crisis, but you and Steve are just turning it, so yeah, it's not bothering you at all. And John is perfectly Q5, but considerably weaker because I guess he's, well, not that much farther away, but the climax is near my buddy Mike Cumbo, ND4S. He's in near High Point. But anyway, Steve, I don't think the Elenco has the surge problem, but it indeed, this is crazy, has no variable output except those steps. You can go in the menu and select the power output step, but there is no continuous output knob. And like I say, Ameritron makes that little model PPC 150, which is nothing but a little DC voltage generator that works off a wall wart, and you dial up the ALC voltage. But the problem I had is that its output voltage was gross overkill compared to what I needed for the Elenco, so I had to go in and I put a 1500 ohm shunt resistor across the pot and to knock the voltage down to give me a better burning on the pot range, because it had to be at the very bottom end of the dial setting, and if you sneezed on it, it would change. And with that 1500 ohm pot, it's up almost to half scale, which is a whole lot better. And it's spreading the voltage out, so it's a little bit easier to adjust. But that's crazy. I mean, Elenco has an ALC input, which is only needed if you're operating with a linear and getting the feedback from the linear that you're overdriving. And yet there's no variable output. I mean, talk about stupid design. It's a great little transceiver, but they did some crazy things. For example, the early, mine is an SR9T. Its predecessor, the SR8T, the early ones, was a great transceiver. It would do anything the 9 would, except it had the ceramic filters and not the optional mechanical filters that I was able to add. And but the way they had it set up was if you could select wide and narrow for sideband or for AM. But if you selected narrow, that's for receive. But stupid idiots also made it narrow transmit. So if you read the reviews on early SR8s, half the people said the audio sounded crappy. And what was happening is if you selected narrow, and then the transmit was narrow, and it's fine to receive in crowded conditions, but it's very stilted audio for transmit. It should only affect the receive bandwidth, not the transmit bandwidth. And the reason I know that is I had the same problem because my first Elenco was the 8, and it did that. And I called up the guys at Rimtronics that sell Elenco, and the guy said, yeah, that they screwed up on the early 8s, and so they got bad reviews if somebody left it in narrow when they were transmitting. And of course, you don't want to have to change it when you go to transmit it. Transmit should be unaffected. It should only, wide and narrow should only be on receive. So go figure. But it's a very powerful as rice boxes go, and like I say, 40 watts AM carrier means you're looking at 160 watts peak, and it's all there. Like I say, I have to dial it way back because this Titan doesn't need that much drive. So I had to add the black box, so to speak, but that doesn't help. I wouldn't think with a spike, but maybe so. Like you say, it's a different voltage source. The little box is a fixed voltage, so it wouldn't generate, well, unless the spike is something on the transmitter side, and you need ALC to cut it back. Anyhow, enough on that. I'm going to sign out on this one. I've got to, I wanted to just check in. You guys sound good tonight. And, John, I have your handle nailed down, so I won't make that mistake again. And my buddy Mike, ND4S, I gave him your information because he wanted to know who is it in Climax, because you're not that far from him. He's actually in Archdale, and I forget what the highway number is. I think it's 62. He lives right there just off the 62 exit off I-85 north. And he wanted to know, was that close to him? So 73's over to you, John, and Steve. We'll see you, talk to you Sunday night if we don't catch you Saturday night or some other time. Or maybe even after I get back tomorrow if you guys are on. It just depends. W4 ZPL KZ4B over.
Okay, KZ4PW4JPL. The guy that's in climax, again, 4CTM. Fellas, I'm going to get out of here. It looks like the lightning's getting close again. I'm starting to see some light out there, and the lightning detector's going off. D73, God bless. Steve, maybe in the morning. W4JPL is clear and hardly disconnecting his antenna.
Okay, guys. You have a good evening. Thanks for checking in. 73, everybody. It's N4LQ clear and closing the net.
You have a good one. KZ4B clear.